What are your deepest, darkest video gaming secrets? Hey everyone, I'm your host Tony, and with me today is Dan.
Hey everybody.
And this is H4G Gaiden. It is our side show where we talk about gaming news, gaming topics, and really whatever is on our minds. So we asked you guys on Twitter and Facebook what were your deepest, darkest gaming secrets. And we actually got some pretty good ones.
Oh yes, we did.
And some ones that were a little bit more out there too.
Yeah, it wasn't the oh, I had to put a cheat code in for this one sort of thing.
Yeah.
I mean, there were some really good ones.
Yeah, so there's some definitely very interesting ones, but we figured that we would start with ours, at least with mine. Normally when I mention them on Facebook or in an episode, people comment and they're like, oh my god, really? Like, you've never done this, or you don't do that, or like, how can you be a gamer? You know, that kind of stuff.
How could you possibly do anything about gaming if you don't do X?
Yeah, exactly. It's that kind of stuff. My first one has to do with Chrono Trigger. And get prepared to be Chrono Triggered.
Chrono Trigger warning, everyone.
I borrowed Chrono Trigger back in the day, mid-90s, from a friend of mine down the street. I played it for a little bit and returned it. I didn't get very far. I liked it, but it didn't like blow my mind. You know, I think maybe I got stuck or something like that. Years later, you know, after college, it was like 2008, 2009, I picked it back up, and I was legitimately, you know, I was enjoying it. But I stopped for a while, and eventually, you know, Richie was like, listen, you gotta play this game, you gotta beat it. So he came over after my first hip surgery. I've actually had 3 hip surgeries, and we did an episode talking all about Chrono Trigger while we were playing it. And you can watch that in the card above here. But we were rocking it, but we were kind of shooting through it. You know, not necessarily leisurely, but not necessarily quick either, and you know, we were kind of bouncing between talking and shooting and you know, different players playing and that kind of thing. You know, we got maybe 80% of the way through, and then we stopped shooting for the day. And I stopped playing it. Years later, played a little bit more. Richie came over. We got maybe about 2 hours until the finish, and I just never picked it up again. And this was like 2012. So with Chrono Trigger, I don't know if it was the medication that I was on. I don't know if it was the fact that we were kind of shooting through it so quick, but I never developed any sort of a personal connection to the game. You know, intellectually, like, I know it's a solid and competent game, but emotionally, I don't really care about it. I've never connected to Chrono Trigger.
What do you mean you haven't? Whoa, hold on.
I'm angry!
Oh, yeah. It just seems to set people off.
Yeah, so let's go ahead and toss it to you here. What's your first gaming secret?
Well, on the subject of titles that people lose their minds if you tell them you've never beaten Final Fantasy VII. Not only have I never beaten it, I've never played it.
Now, that may not seem like a huge deal to your average, like, you know, average gamer, but earlier you were telling me that not only did you play, but you had beat Final Fantasy VIII.
Yes, so I played through Final Fantasy VIII, and I thought it was great, and every time I heard somebody talking about Final Fantasy, you know, I always looked at the Roman numerals, and apparently I didn't look at them clearly enough, because I failed to distinguish 7 and 8, so every time everyone was talking about how great of a title 7 was, I'm like, oh yeah, I played that. It was great. And then they started to say things about swords that were the size of living rooms, and you know, a dude with a Gatling gun for an arm or something. As I've never played the game, you can clearly tell I have no idea what I'm talking about.
Cloud and Barrett, yeah.
But the thing of that is, I legitimately didn't realize they were separate titles for the longest time.
And on top of that, 7 brought so many people into the Final Fantasy series. Like, I started with 7, then I went to 8, then I went to 6. Right? But you just jumped right into 8 for some reason.
Oh no, I did every part of this wrong.
And 8 is normally the one that gets panned. So last one of mine here is that, and this is probably the saddest thing, is that 9 out of 10 games I buy, I don't play, and I will probably never play. Now, it's not that I don't want to. I desperately want to. But 40 hours per week of work, you know, every waking moment my child is up, Obviously, you know, I got to take care of him. He's only a year old. Not that my wife doesn't help. We split it very evenly, but,
of course,
I don't, you know, I have to be there for my son.
I mean,
of course.
hard baby is a serious commitment.
Yeah, hard baby is a very serious, hard commitment, if you will. But, you know, plus 10 hours of work on Hard for Games, you know, add time with my wife, which of course is important to any relationship. And I'm basically never alone. If I'm alone, if I'm like driving, you know, and then that's essentially it, you know. So if you were to take the amount of gaming I do per week and like average it out on a per day basis, you're looking at 5 to 8 minutes, right? And you take the campaign of the average game, you know, anywhere between 20 and 60 hours. You get some of those Xenoblade games, you're talking like 100, 120 hours. It's tough, right? So I love games, I fully want to play them, but I basically never play them. You know, the exceptions being with Hard for Games, right? We're going to play some games after this. It's going to be great. But, you know, that's also kind of a blurred line between work and gaming. And not all games I own, I want to become work.
You know, that's truly unfortunate.
It's like you're like, I'm kind of speechless.
You know,
I bared my soul to you. So we're going to go ahead and switch it up to some of your dirty secrets here. We're not going to say who they were. We're just going to go ahead and just say what the secrets were. First off, I really enjoyed Sonic R, especially the soundtrack. Now, if you're familiar with Sonic R, that is the Sega Saturn 3D on-foot racing game with like the very like, I guess like sort of like weeaboo sounding soundtrack. Like, yeah. It's like very
there's a good adjective for it, but no one in this room knows what it is.
Yeah, it's
a thing.
So here's one that I'm actually gonna go back on what I previously said and mention this guy's name, only because I want to plug him, because he's just got like such an amazing channel that it's kind of underappreciated, I think.
Go check it out.
Digiman. Digi-M-A-N. So not Digimon, but Digiman. It's really funny. He does a really good job. But anyways, he tweeted at us, and he said, "Until I was in high school, one of my favorite games was an Elmo game on PC."
Ooh. I mean, that's a confession right there. See, folks, if you're going to confess to something,
that's how you do it. This gentleman has a Sega confession, so why don't you go ahead and read that?
This gentleman purchased a Sega CD and a 32X at launch. Boy, hard contrast to me.
This gentleman says that he sold Panzer Dragoon Saga for ridiculously cheap to one of his neighbors. Like 17 years ago.
Ooh, that decision has not aged well.
Yeah, he said it was to help purchase a PS2 because the PS2 was hot at the time. He wanted to get rid of his Saturn and stuff.
Boy, that decision just continues to not age well.
Yeah.
Boy, this one. Whew. Lordy. I paid over $300 for all of the CDI Zelda games. Well, I mean, there's more to it, but I'm struggling to get past that sentence. You get to like, yes, I bought all the CDI Zelda game. And then you play one for about 30 to 40 seconds, and oh my god, I bought all of the CDI Zelda games.
The only one that's even tolerable, we did a review on all of them, but the only one that I found tolerable was Zelda's Adventure. Like, I would have kind of kept playing if someone could find a way to hack that game and make it so the load times were like half the length. It would become playable, I think.
Right.
But it suffers quite a bit. So this guy goes on to say, I also spent over 6 hours fixing some old broken Philips CDIs just so I could say I've beaten all of the Zelda games. It's my dirty little secret. None of my friends even know about it.
You know what? That kind of suffering just to say you beat all the Zelda games, I mean, that's truly someone who's hard for games.
Yeah, maybe the wrong games, though.
Well, I don't think anyone's going to debate that with you, but...
So here's one that's interesting. This gentleman says, I enjoyed the original Bubsy unironically.
That is a tall claim.
Yeah, and then someone commented, how psyched are you for the new one? He says, it's meh. Here's one that we were saving this one for last just because we thought it was so interesting. Do you want to go ahead and tackle this?
It's truly a unique confession. You know, I mean, the thing is, like, a lot of dirty gaming secrets are, oh, I had to use a cheat to beat the last level of GoldenEye.
Yeah.
Me. I'm that guy. Lots of other people, too, as it turns out.
Yeah.
Or, you know, I didn't play insert iconic game here. This is off the wall.
Yeah.
I hate finishing games because I don't want the story to end.
Yeah, and what's funny is there's actually a reply that says, "Oh, I have a friend who's the same way." I think that the person says his friend won't beat games, or like delays them as long as possible. And normally, when I'm getting to an end of a game, I'm like, "Thank God, I can move on to another game in my backlog." You know, per what I mentioned earlier. But
right. Well, and that's with a lot of games in particular. You know, games with good stories. You get to the end and like, all right, I get to see how this finishes. You know, for me, it's this big anticipation of it ending.
The payoff.
You get to see the conclusion.
Yeah,
and this is kind of off the wall. I can appreciate this.
It's like when you read a good book and it finishes and like no one around you has experienced what you've experienced, but like you're feeling this thing that like no one else gets at that moment.
Like, I need to tell someone about this. I got to share this epiphany I
got to do a game show called Hard for Games, you know. But it's just kind of like one of those things where it's like, but you want that experience. I know you understand, like, the anal retentiveness of, I mean, like in like the classic sense, like literally holding in poop, which is where anal retentiveness comes from.
Yes, of course.
You're retaining it, but
thank you for the etymology.
It's like holding in. it's like holding in, like not wanting to let go of this thing because it's like pleasing you so much, you know. So I get it in a way, but I would never do that.
No, I mean it's not the sort of thing I'd do myself.
Yeah.
But I can kind of appreciate where they're coming from.
Yeah. That said, everybody, thank you so much for listening to this episode of Hard for Games Guide, and we really do appreciate it. And thank you to everybody that was willing to share their little dirty gaming secrets.
It's one of those fun little things that just brings us all closer together.
Feel free to give this video a like, a share, and a comment, and we will see you all next time.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you again for watching. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to give it a like and a share, and we will see you guys next time.